Welcome back to Blaze Capital. My name is Justin, and today I have a very exciting interview for you. I've got Dhruv with me here today. Hey, Dhruv, how are you?
Hey Justin, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. So, our interview today is very exciting for this reason. Dhruv is a 14-year-old who has returned 30% in the stock market in the last 90 days. Needless to say, that is impressive. What we want to do today is try to understand how Dhruv got here and where he plans to go. The reason why I was particularly motivated to do this video is because I always hear excuses over the last 3 years from people on YouTube. I'm not successful because, right? Oh, I would be successful, but I don't have enough time, but I don't have enough money, but I'm too old. And over, I think, the next like 20 minutes as Drew and I talk, you will find out that there are very few excuses you can actually tell yourself because Drew has overcome every single one of those. So as we get started here, Drew, maybe what we could do is you could just tell me, how did you and I meet? And why did you decide to, like, and then I'll talk about why we decided to support you. I think that's a good place to start.
Sure. So basically, let me first talk about how my interest in the stock market kind of began, and then I'll kind of tell my story from that point until where I am now.
So
So
you and I
I,
talked, like, sorry to coach you off. Like, you and I talked quite a bit before we started, and like this part here is like the origin story. So we're
yes.
thinking of Drew like a superhero, and he's, again, like, he's slayed the market. So he's conquered the market, and now we're gonna go all the way back in time, back to the origin story. Drew and I have chatted a lot, and I'm really excited here. So please, Drew, go on. Sorry for cutting you off.
No problem. So basically, it all started 2 to 3 years ago where I developed an interest in the stock market just because I found it really cool about how these big billionaire investors like Warren Buffett could identify these trends like well before they started, and how they compounded their money and built up their worth and solved these puzzles in order to do so. And I'd say that this interest really spiked April of last year when the coronavirus pandemic hit, and I went to remote school and I was at home, wasn't much to do. And I turned on the news, and every day in the news, I see the stock market up and down 5, 10%, like the vol. And I was not as experienced as I am then, but I knew that that volatility was not as natural in the market. So I was like, okay, why is this happening? And I noticed that I was intrigued by how the market was affected by like fiscal policy, the Fed, the government, the news, the fundamentals, and even just psychology. So I decided, okay, I want to start dabbling in the market a bit, paper trading, markets at like 20, 30% from the highs. Good dip to buy, as all more than 20% corrections have been historically in the US market. So I decided to paper trade. At first, I was just dabbling in, not as serious, and made some good trades, made some bad trades. I didn't really know what I was doing. But I decided the summer vacation hit, June hit, and I decided I want to get more serious because I wanted a way to fill my time, and I really wanted to pursue this interest that I had. So I was looking at YouTube. I wanted to know what fundamental analysis was, what technical analysis was, how can you determine these trends, right? And I was looking at a bunch of different YouTube channels, and most of them were just like, oh, this is the next 10x stock to buy. But I'd seen enough videos at that point, and I had read through the newsletters like, oh, buy this stock and it'll return 5x in the next year. And then the same newsletter from the same company, like 2 days later, said, oh, sell the stock, short seller report or something like that. So I came across Blaze Capital through one of their live streams, and what really resonated with me was Justin and Matt's the sense that they were very down to earth, and also that they were teaching you the tools and the skill set that you need, like how to read an options chain. They had videos on what options are, what support and resistance were, and at that point, I was kind of getting myself familiar with what supply and demand was, support and resistance, how stocks work. My dad taught me about options, bonds. So I decided to take my paper trading more seriously. I never really understood why support and resistance worked until a couple months later, but that comes with experience. And I'd say in September, October, and like the next 5 months, I was able to double the paper trading account. Of course, it had margin, but because it's a paper trading account. But I stopped kind of clicking that reset button every time that I used to do, and I started taking it seriously. And I think Justin, you can talk about, I think November was the first time that like I actually told you that, through one of the chats that I was 14. I just turned 14 in November. So
Yeah.
you can touch base on that.
So that's a really good segue, because what I wanted to talk about is why we decided to support you. And I think by listening to Drew talk, he's a 14-year-old. If you just listen to him speak for the last couple of minutes, he's speaking intelligently, he's humble, he's hungry. This is why we want to support him. And I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but there's going to be a link. We should probably have it up here and also in the description. We are helping support Drew along his journey in the stock market. If you want to contribute to his journey of success, we would welcome your donations. Every dollar donated is going to go directly to Drew. This is something that is very important to me, because regardless of age, Drew is someone who has shown more initiative, more drive, and more determination than anybody, regardless of age. I do Zoom one-on-one phone calls with people almost every week, at least 2 people almost every week. People do not come prepared. We send out surveys ahead of time to get them ready. I ask them to do homework, they don't. Dhruv is the only one who has done everything. I tell him to read a book, he reads it in 2 weeks. I tell him to use a trading log, he starts using it. And so to make sure that we step back here to unpack what Dhruv just told us, because again, for a 14-year-old to have that kind of financial literacy and understanding, pretty impressive. To be returning 30% after 3 months, even more impressive. So the reason why we decided to support Dhruv is because he is going to be someone who is going to do well at whatever he chooses in life, whether that's stocks or anything. So ironically, again, so getting to the question that Dhruv answered here, how do we meet? During the live streams, if that's how you guys know us, again, we often do Q&A back and forth. So during the Q&A, Dhruv is like, yeah, I just locked in like $10,000 in gains today. I got my $250,000 portfolio. And he was asking questions that were articulated and demonstrated, like written out in a way where I thought he's like 60, 70. I thought he's like this old guy and like he's very sophisticated. He knows what he's doing. I'm like, why are you watching me if you know everything? You've got a $250,000 port. Why are you watching me? And then I was making fun of him because when we flipped over the channel to being memberships or supported, I said, come on, Drew, like you told me you made $10,000 today. You can't afford the $2 to join our membership? And he's like, no, I can't. I don't have a credit card. I'm 14. I'm like, what? You must be catfishing us. There's no way you're 14 with those kind of questions. And fair enough, he was 14. And from that time, Drew was someone who I have taken a particular interest to. And that's what I would say. So the way that Drew and I met is that I thought I was getting catfished because of the quality of the questions he was asking. And after we had our first phone call, like our first Zoom call, I'm like, okay, this is someone who I think is going to be very successful. So a little bit of a humble brag and a plug there for you, Drew. Hopefully you appreciate that. Like, what do you think about that? Like after I said that?
Yeah, I mean, I was just like thinking in my head, like as we were talking, like I've come such a long way since a little over a year and a month ago when I actually like started, taking the market seriously. And I'm just thinking like there's so much more that there's still to learn that I don't know. And like my drive in the market, it was never to, make money. In fact, I was, for all I knew, I was going to be paper trading for a while until I turned 18. Like 5-6 months ago. That's what I was thinking. But it was always to like learn more. And not only does interest in money compounds, but Justin and I were talking earlier, and we were acknowledging that knowledge also compounds over the years. So starting young, really, I think is going to give me an advantage. But at the same time, I'm very thankful and grateful to the Blaze Capital community. And I think in January, all of a sudden on a stream, so I told the Blaze Capital community that my parents were going to give me some money to trade with real money in a custodial account. And all of a sudden on the stream, Justin was like, so Dhruv told us that his parents were going to give him some money to trade, and we want to help him out. And everyone in Blaze Capital, they kind of pitched in, and they were able to raise some money, and Justin was able to get that check sent out to my dad. And how we planned to put it in my portfolio was 2 or 3 or 4 tranches. We had a plan, and I'd start with the money that my parents gave me, and we'd slowly but steadily add it on dips in my portfolio based on market seasonality. So I started with the money, and I think I did like 30-40% in the first couple months from like Feb, March. And I decided to add more money in because April is seasonally a very strong time. So I kind of bought that March dip in my portfolio. And yeah, I mean, with the money I've added, it's now, I think 35% in the last 3 months of trading. So I'm really grateful. Again, it's a lot more than the money for me. It's more about the knowledge, the experience, and like the sense of community here at Blaze Capital and the relationships.
That's a really good point, Dhruv. And the reason why I wanted to put this video out on the internet, I'm not sure it's going to get a lot of views. I hope it does. And the reason why is because everyone always has an excuse. And after I had the first phone call with Dhruv and he showed me how he was planning on deploying his money, he was more concerned about not losing than winning. His paper trade portfolio, I think, how much did you make? Like 150, 200? I forget what percent you made on that one, on the paper trade.
Yeah, so I did a little more than doubling it. So I started with 100K. I think went to like 230K at the end.
Okay. So what you did, and again, what we often, when the first fallacy here is that I don't have enough money to learn how stocks work. Dhruv is 14. He has no monies. What did he do? He learned with fake money, learned the strategy, because something we want to talk about, and we are going to do future videos. So if it's not covered in this video, we will talk about it later. Trading fake money versus real money. That's one of the things we want to talk about. We also want to talk about trading styles, because again, if you're part of a team, just because you want to be the quarterback doesn't mean you will be the quarterback. Other things we talked about is that Dhruv inspired me not only to support him, meaning that I want to help him personally. And after he told me that, my dad's going to give me, again, X amount of dollars to use for real now to see if I can replicate the success of the paper account and the real account. When he told me why he was doing it and how he was doing it, I want to do it in tranches so that if I'm learning, I'm not going to learn with all of the money. If I'm going to make mistakes, which is what I'm expecting, make the small mistakes so that if I make a mistake, I can smooth it out with the next ad and the next ad and the next ad. That I'm like, if only everyone did that. I'm not going to go all in weekly options, right? Or whatever it is. They always go all in. So what Dhruv has also inspired me to do on a future stream is we did a charity raise. And what Dhruv has shown through personal action is that there is a young audience out there of young traders who want to be successful and want to do well. We've always had a compassion portion to our community. It's to people who are, again, might not have the financial means, or they don't have enough money saved up to afford our fees. We support them anyway. And the number one investment that I saw the last time we did a raise for charities, first it was for Dhruv personally, and now Dhruv has inspired me too, build out a team of young traders under the age of 18. How many people do we have, Dhruv? Like, we got 2 teams. How many people do we have?
I think we have 10 to 12 young traders in total. That's
including you and Jake. I think we're at about like 12.
Yeah,
like 2 teams of 5, I think, or 2 teams of 6.
I think there's 2 teams of, I think there's 1 team of 5 and 1 team of 6, if I'm not mistaken, last I checked. So okay. I think 12, 11, 12, 10 to 12 in that range is a good number. Yeah.
So part of this video as well is to hold both of us accountable. So Dhruv says that he wants to be at this spot next year, at this spot in 3 months, 6 months, where he's now going to have all of the money in his account. He's now fully invested. And my goal is to make sure that I can be his accountability partner and he can be mine. Mm-hmm. We're planning on checking in regularly, and we want to bring your stories. So again, if you guys really enjoy this, again, I would really appreciate a thumbs up, drop us a comment. And again, that video support Dhruv, the link to support Dhruv should be up here and down in the video description for later. And something I think that we should probably talk about really fast here, and I want to bring something we were planning on talking about a little bit earlier up, is a support network. So I think that, again, we can talk about each thing in like either like in a later video or quickly here. I'm just being mindful of time so that we're not like dragging on for too long. But I think that the support network is something that I personally found very rewarding. I'll talk for about a minute and then I'll hand it over to you so you can give me your take. What I noticed is that Dhruv has a very strong support network, meaning his parents are very supportive of what he does. They're not blindly supportive either. They're not blindly bullish on Dhruv trading stocks, okay? They're bullish on Dhruv trading stocks, but they're not blindly bullish, right? You understand what that means? So his support network is very strong. If he's not successful, he can fall back, he can lean in. And that's what I wanted to provide to him in a format where I'm trying to give to him what I wish I had if our roles were reversed. I say it all the time. I sucked for 5 years because I didn't know what I was doing. And what I'm getting in feedback from Dhruv is that my audience is not very big yet, but there are people out there. There's hundreds and thousands of people, tens of thousands on the channel, thousands of people like total through our products who want to learn and get better, whether or not they are willing to put in the effort. What I've recognized is that I keep talking about the ROI on the snowball effect, where I help some people, they help other people, they help more people. What I've learned is that under the right motivation, someone can go from not understanding anything about stocks as a 13-year-old to now trading profitably. I've invested my time in Dhruv, and people in our community are now finding value in making money off of his idea generation, his idea prep. Our fantasy team, trust me, the fantasy team, the team no old people, they're doing okay. They're doing okay. And I think the exercise of working with a team with fake money to build a fantasy portfolio is something that is very powerful because there's compromise. You're working as a team. You have to lean in. And all the lessons that I have learned over, I'm now 32. I started trading stocks more actively when I was about 18, 19. So call it 18, 13, 14 years. All the knowledge that I've built up over that time, I am trying to give that to Dhruv in a concentrated format so that instead of him going through years of suffering, I can give him a lesson. And if he understands the rationale, he doesn't have to go through all the pain that I did. He can learn the lesson without my pain. And the takeaway here is that Dhruv is probably as far down his path as I was by my 5th or 6th year. Dhruv is 14. I've been trading for 13 years. He's already halfway through my journey. We talk about learn, earn, grow. Dhruv is already well on his way through the learn stage. He's earned money through his paper account. He's ready to earn, to grow his real account. He's starting to earn real profit in a real account. Soon he's going to grow that one. So the template that we say that I've tried to build over the last couple of years of investing in other people to get future dividends, this is one of them. Dhruv is going to be good, whether it's this year, next year, 5 years, 10 years. I got time, right? I'm young too. Our age gap right now seems big, but over time, it's going to get smaller and smaller. And I'm greedy. The reason why I'm being greedy, I want Dhruv's ideas. I want those hot tips. I want the hot tips. I want those 30% every 3 months, Dhruv. Not to put you under not to put pressure on you. And I'm just making fun here.
Challenge accepted.
So like, what's your take on that? And like by the support network, I think it's really important that what I personally really found really rewarding is that I wanted to support Dhruv. People on the stream overwhelmingly donated, and then the follow-up was that I think we raised like $2,000. Then I said I would do a match, so we raised about $5,000. And I said, what's the best way for us to spend this for helping people? And the takeaway was we want to help more people like Dhruv. We want to help more people. We went through a vetting process to get those 12 people who are young. We're going to help them just like we're helping Dhruv. Why? I think that's a very good investment, not just for us, but it also gives younger people motivation, old people motivation, and there's that support network. So what do you think about that support network, Dhruv? Like you're one at home, but also you're one online.
Yeah. So as you've clearly laid it out, yeah, I think I have two main support networks in terms of my trading journey. One of them being my extremely supportive parents that I'm really grateful for. And they supported me every step of the way. They taught me a lot, even with trading, outside of trading. And then also the online community in Blaze Capital. And as I was mentioning earlier, I think one of the main things about Blaze Capital is the community aspect. Like we support each other, and we, as you mentioned, we invest in each other. And I'm really looking forward to the results of the fantasy league, and also to the many things that we have planned for the young traders. And I've been helped a lot, and I'm looking forward to helping other people, as well as I know that there's still a lot for me to learn. And I'm maybe 5 years in, but there's still 8 more years to go. So I think we all have a really bright future, and I'm just really, for the support networks, I'm just really grateful for everything that I think like the stars have really aligned for me in the last year.
I also think that again, so like just like finishing up like on your origin story. So like one of the questions I want to ask here, and like also like getting a preview of your goals. So Drew's origin story is that again, he likes being busy. We've talked a lot. So he says that he always has to be busy. He has to be occupied. When you're told you can't go anywhere, you can't see your friends, you have limited options left. Drew could have been playing video games all day. He chose to trade stocks. He chose to learn about stocks, trade fake money, show up on our streams and engage with us. So my question to you is why? And then what are your goals that now that you've done this thing for fun and you're starting to do it for real? Like, what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish with this?
So I'd say that I chose to trade stocks. It wasn't like I chose to trade it over video games because trust me, I did do a lot of video games over the summer too. Um, Teenager locked in the house,
Yeah.
can't expect anything more. But in terms of the stocks, I'd say that I think you've covered this on the streams, but like you, I have a real interest in like solving puzzles and looking at trends. And again, I got interested in it more like passionately in April, March because I was really interested in how like the economics, the fundamentals, how does trader psychology affect the stock chart, right? Like I understood how you bounce off support, it's a line, you go up to resistance, you bounce off resistance, it's another, or you come back off of resistance, it's another line. Keep the stop loss below support, and then you sell at resistance 2-to-1 restored, right? I understood that. I was starting to understand that. But I never understood why it worked, right? Like, because there's a lot of supply, there's a lot of volume, there's a lot of shares that have been bought or sold in those levels, and there's a lot of bag holders that need to be getting out, or that historically it's struggled with that area because of the volume there. So I'd say that right now in my trading journey, I think I still have a lot more to learn. And I think that in terms of the tranches, right? I've put in one tranche of the 3 planned tranches of the money that I've gone from Blaze Capital so far. So I'm planning on buying the dip in myself sometime midsummer, mid-June maybe, and then the next one in August, September for the end of year tech rally. So that's my shorter term plan. And now in terms of longer term, my goals, I never really entered looking into this. I think one of the biggest advantages for me personally was I never entered looking into it to make money. I never had to make money. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I didn't have to make money. I'm 14. But I always looked into it to solve the puzzles, to learn new things. I didn't have much to do. And I'd say that in terms of goals, it's just to learn more and to further improve my trading, my style. I think I've learned, we'll cover this more in the next video about my trading style, but right now I'm a big trend trader. So I like kind of following trends, even if it's gone up. I like buying the dip, keeping the stop below 50 DMA, 2-to-1 risk to reward. So just learning more about myself, dabbling into options later on in the road. I don't think I need those now just because I'm just getting started with the real money and commons. But when I can prove to myself that I can be consistently profitable, I might move into options. But yeah, I mean, I think that my goal is just in summary to learn more, to just have this constant thirst of knowledge.
I think a really good way for us to summarize this is that you and I talked about like your 10 chapter story.
Yeah.
What chapter do you think you're at right now? And for people who aren't familiar, we will do a separate video on the 10 chapters thing, maybe with Drew, but independently, I will talk about this publicly for later. For now, it's just that, again, we got learn, earn, grow, which means if you want to go from knowing nothing about the stock market to conquering it, getting to chapter 10, you have to do the homework. You have to lay things out. If you don't plan for success, don't be surprised when it doesn't happen. And like I said, Drew, as a 14-year-old, is the only one who made this book. Everyone says they're going to do it. Yeah. Other people need to do that, not me. So maybe you could talk about the experience of just, I think this might be really helpful for right now, just looking at time. I think that maybe what was the experience of you writing the book out, like thinking about how am I going to write it? How many chapters do I want to go? Chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Am I going to do chapter 1.1, 1.2? How do I know what I want to learn? Like, meaning what's my criteria, where it fits in each chapter? Where am I currently right now? Just curious on your thoughts.
So it definitely took a couple of times, like rewriting the 10 chapters, just because what I found most helpful was starting at chapter 1 and starting at chapter 10, where I am now and where I eventually want to be. And that eventually want to be, you can view it as like really long term or really short term. So I chose a term path. I'd say I think it was 5 years from now, and it was by the time I'm 18, which is like when, or I think in New Jersey it's actually 21 when the custodial account becomes like your own actual account. The plan was to so where I started was I started paper trading. I started real account, right? And how I kind of worked. I'll summarize it. I'm not going to go into each chapter in detail, but
Mhm.
I start real trading. I proved to myself I can consistently real trade. I find I have to find a strategy that works. And I started logging my trade so I can see, okay, if I hold a trade for more than 20 days, does that mean I'm holding a bag on it? Especially if it's a red trade. Then at that point, do I just have to get out? Am I not minding my stops on it? Am I kind of saying to myself, oh, it's a high conviction trade, it'll go up? Am I hoping that it'll go up, right? So that was like the mid chapters. Then I wanted to start learning about options in there, learning about futures, learning about different kinds of instruments that you can trade with. And later on, as I would develop the profit, as I would get closer to 18 or 21, I would actually want to allocate half of my profits, or like 3/4 of my profits, into a long-term investing account, because I think investing, there's as much bread and butter to be made, if not more, as one of the members in our group, Mary, told me. So I'd say that like I'd put some into index funds, and then do a lot of fundamental analysis on companies that I really like for the long term, that I think are below intrinsic value at a really good price, and just take it from there. So I think that that's a brief summary, a brief overview of my 10 chapters. I think it was really cool to think about how I'm going to outline my next 5 to 7 to 10 years of my trading slash investing journey. And it was definitely something to think about.
What chapter do you think you're at right now?
I'd say right now I'm between chapter 2 and chapter 3. So I'm a third of the way there, but I'd say chapter 4, chapter 5, if I remember, take a long time. So I'm
Mhm.
probably like a fifth to a quarter of the way there.
Okay. And like this is really good too, because like something you said there really, I was making a mental note of it, that the reason why we also started doing the kids tournament and the fantasy teams is because, are we good at predicting trends for the next 3 months? Meaning every 3 months we rebalance with fake money. So the lesson that we learned from Dhruv is paper trade, learn the lesson, apply it with real money. Working in a team, like managing a fund. Dhruv is saying I need to have different allocations. If I plan on having a lot more money tomorrow than I do today, I need to manage it differently, because I want to have the active part and the passive part. And the passive part is what I think a lot of people struggle with, right? Actually not selling. The paper game is set up where you actually can't sell. You can't do anything. If you win or lose, you can't do anything. So I think that part there as well, like doing the learning with no money, where again, our goal by doing this together is actually to learn. It's not to make money. It's not to grow our account. It's fake money. It's not going to do anything. But I think that's something that's really, really powerful. And what I'm trying to look at here is, again, what is the recipe of success, which has led Dhruv to here? And how can we replicate that for everybody to incentivize them to follow the path of least resistance to be successful? It sounds simple, not so easy to put into place. So I think we're probably clocking in about like 25, like 30 minutes now. Like, do you have like, what do you think, Drew? I have a couple more comments here, but like, is there anything else you want to jump into? Otherwise, we could preview what we could do in future videos.
Sure. So I think that like the one takeaway from this, and I think we'll definitely cover this more in future videos, but one takeaway for me, like if I had to give one piece of advice to anyone who's like starting new, it's
Mhm.
don't go into it for the money, go into it for the knowledge and the learning. And that can be a lot harder for some people compared to others. Like 13-year-olds don't need money, you know what I mean? But 18-year-olds or 19-year-olds or even like 25-year-olds, if you're going to spend your time, you're gonna want some quick money, right? So that might happen, that might not happen, but regardless of the direction your portfolio and account moves in, I think that one thing that's really helped me is that I went into it with the thirst of knowledge and the curiosity and the wanting to learn. So I think that's my big takeaway from this whole experience.
So that's actually a good thing. We can probably wrap up with this with the last few minutes here. So, like the analogy that we always use is, if you're going to university, like Dhruv wants to get his PhD in stocks. He wants a PhD in the stock market. He doesn't want a high school diploma. Sorry, he doesn't want his like a high school degree. He doesn't want his high school degree. He doesn't want a diploma. He doesn't want a bachelor's. He wants his PhD. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So if you
PhD,
want your
best of the best.
exactly. So if you want to have your PhD when you go to school, do they pay you or do you pay them?
You pay the tuition.
Is there opportunity cost, meaning you can't go and work a full-time job? You have to go to school, you have to do your homework, you have to prepare.
Yeah.
Mm. So when you want your PhD in being a doctor, if you want your PhD in being anything, right, even a mathematician, what a lot of people fail to do is they fail to get the practical experience, go in the field, actually test and dabble on a job you would do. What you're doing right now is you're figuring out, do I actually want to be a stock trader in your teens, as your teenager? So as you become older, you've already dabbled in experiment. Do I want to day trade? Do I want to swing trade? Do I want to invest? Do I want to do this? You're already experimenting. So as you're going down your journey, and instead of being let's use the doctor example, instead of being a family doctor, a general practitioner, you want to be the PhD, right, brain surgeon, right? You're like, no, I want to be like the scalpel guy, right? I show up for like 5 minutes. I show up for the emergency. I'm the specialist, and I've already experimented a little bit with, again, like I tried open heart surgery. I tried being the pediatrician. I tried being the different types of doctors. I want to be this. I'm specializing. And you're getting that feedback early enough in your journey that you can project, again, my chapter 10, how can I get there with the least amount of resistance? How can I get to that specialist PhD by spending the least amount of money, but I'm expecting that I'm going to show up, I'm going to give my time, and I'm going to pay. The expectation is not that I'm going to become a PhD brain surgeon. The school's going to pay me to show up, whether or not I'm good or bad. They're going to pay me on day one. They're going to pay me every day, and I'm never going to get upset. I'm never going to have to worry about anything. So the expectation versus the other side.
Yeah.
And like the difference here with Dhruv is that there is no way that he could have been like, oh, well, I'm going to put in my X amount of dollars into the market. I'm going to grow my account. I'm going to double it, right? I'm going to take his paper money account, pretend it was real. I'm going to double that. That never even went through his mind because the money does not exist. So the way he was able to set himself up for success is by actually being in a position where he was looking to learn. So in wrapping up here, I think what we can talk about are like, maybe I'll ask you, what do you think are the biggest themes what are the biggest excuses that people normally use in the market? I can think of 3. I don't have enough.
Yeah.
What do they usually not have enough of?
Money.
Okay.
Time.
Okay.
Knowledge.
Yes. So let's just quickly touch on each of those for like 30 seconds. So
okay.
Time, energy, knowledge. What did you do to be successful in about a year in terms of time?
So in terms of time, so I go to school, but I'd say over the summer, I allocated a lot of my time towards learning about stocks. But when schoolwork kind of started coming in, I tried to determine a good balance. And that did involve me changing my trading style a bit towards the end of the year, in the sense that in the summer, I was doing a lot more paper day trades and like in and out, just because learning about the technical analysis, right? But in like when I was going towards like the end of the middle of the school year, I was like, okay, I have to become more of a swing trader, because how much can I allocate towards stocks every day? Can I allocate an hour? Can I allocate 2 hours? So that number was like around an hour and a half I could allocate towards stocks every day. So I changed my style a bit to help with the time and also make sure my schoolwork was getting done, and then time left over would be spent doing stocks. Then for money, I think I was in an advantageous situation in the sense that I'm 14. I didn't go into it expecting to make money because I was paper trading. Like, yeah, my 100,000 on paper becomes a 200,000. Yeah, the numbers on the screen have become bigger. You know what I mean? But the money was really a big positive surprise that came along with it. It was one of the dividends that the knowledge paid. That's how I like to think about it. And then the third, what was the third? Time, money, and knowledge, right? So yeah, knowledge. So I went into it with rather than looking for the money, I went into it looking for the knowledge. And I think that if you're really passionate about it, if you really have an interest in it, it's not like work, you know what I mean? Like, it's fun for me. It's like a video game for me, like placing calculated bets. Where do I think that the market can go? What's the best risk to reward? What are the big guys doing, the smart money on their option chain? How are they positioning themselves? So it's like reading through the lines, basically.
I think the knowledge one though too is that again, people say that I don't have a base understanding of how, before you can understand how the stock market works, you have to understand how financials work, how financial literacy works. And as someone who's 14, I know you know a lot. I also know there's a lot of things that you don't understand. What do? What are the 2 things that Dhruv does better than anybody else? He shows up and participates. So when he doesn't understand something, what does he do? It's a crazy thing. He asks, I don't understand something. Can you please explain it to me? And for me, the last step to mastery is teaching. If I can teach someone like Dhruv, what I need to do is I need to ask my brain, what do I need to tell him with the least amount of words to make sure he understands the lesson? So how can I synthesize my learning from the last 10 plus years so I can tell him one thing and he can understand what I meant without having to go into detail. So by me being able to teach somebody else, I am also getting myself further down my 10 chapters, because the last step to mastery is teaching. If I can't teach somebody else what I know, I probably don't really understand what I'm doing. So in wrapping up here, I think that, again, I want to remind people that there will be a link up here. I just keep talking about it because I personally think that investing in Dhruv, again, whatever he has for success, he's expecting to pay tuition. I want to help him with his tuition cost to become a successful trader. If you also want to do that, and you're still watching the video, again, any dollar would support us. Any amount is very much appreciated. If you want to do it now or later, that's on you. Even just supporting us with a thumbs up, dropping us a comment, saying that this story inspires you, that is equally impactful for us. And I think that the final thing that we just want to talk about is what we can expect in the next video. So I think personally in the next video, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dhruv, I know we meant to talk about this today, but we'll talk about it next time. I think what we can talk about is the psychology and again, what happens in real life when you are, again, trading with paper, trading versus real. You can reset your paper account. You can say reset, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reset. You can't do it with your real account. So what was the challenges of trading for fake versus real? And now that you're trading for real, again, we talked about this, the mental hurdle that I should be realizing gains, but I don't know what to do. In a paper account, you're like, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to sell.
Worst case scenario, the numbers on the screen go up and down.
But with real money, again, having unrealized 30% is not the same as 30% realized. You did the homework, you prepared, and the results came. So I think that talking about the transition from trading from fake to real is very, very important. And then I think the other thing we can deep dive on is going to be the trading styles. There's a book called Market Wizards, which I highly recommended to Dhruv. He got through it right away. And we can ask Dhruv what different styles he's dabbled with, what he's finding success in, what he's not finding success in. Now he's planning on getting further down his journey. So,
and just as a preview, like the Market Wizards really like taught me a lot in terms of like my current trading style in terms of trend trading. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Mm-hmm. And I can have a link up to that too. So I did like a Q&A before on the top 3 things that made me a better investor. Dhruv did, I think he did all 3. I don't know if you're meditating, but like you're 13, so we'll give you 14. We'll give you a break on that one. But like you've already got your final word in 2. Like we were going to ask, like if other people are in your position today, like so maybe let's do this as a final takeaway for the audience. What homework do you want the audience to do? Because again, we're saying that we want to set them up for success, but it's not going to happen by accident. So what can people do to come better prepared for the next video that we're going to do, publish in the next few weeks?
So I'd say that if you're like new to the market and you're just looking at this video for the first time, or you're looking at the channel for the first time, I'd say definitely set up a paper account. There's many great paper accounts that you can set up, and start. When you have a paper account, you have nothing to lose, right? So you only have knowledge to gain. So go into it with the purpose of gaining the knowledge, not the money. Not the hot tips. Learn how to do the fishing. Don't receive the fish. Like don't have the fish given to you. And then I'd say just come with an open mind and ready to learn. That's my final takeaway.
Perfect. So again, I very much appreciate your time, Dhruv. I know it's getting late for you. So again, just in wrapping up, I want to give a little bit of a humble break here to Dhruv. So again, out of I think I probably have like 35,000 subscribers right now, like just over 3 million views. Not sure exactly how many. Dhruv is the person who, regardless of age, has impressed me the most. It's why I'm dedicating and investing my time into him. So I'm going to support him all along his journey. I think that if you believe in that story, and again, hundreds of people in our group also believe in that story. We want to help more people like Dhruv, and we want to remove the barriers or the myths of not being able to succeed in the market. So over the course of the next few videos, and in the next couple of years, as we follow Dhruv's story, we want to show you how you can also conquer the market. We really much appreciate you watching, but appreciate a thumbs up and drop us a comment. Like, what do you have as overall comments here? And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you on the next video. And thank you again very much, Drew. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Blaze Capital. Thank you for everyone who's watching, and see you in the next video.
Thank you. Bye.